Cunnus T, how are ye? Welcome to Candlelit Tales Podcast.
Our by now annual Samhain set of stories.
I am so sorry that I wrote that because I had no idea that it was going to result in 10 minutes.
Of me trying to
10
say
minutes.
biannual.
Biannual now.
By now annual something.
Now biannual.
Oh my God.
It was very funny.
It wasn't great. Anyway, hello and welcome to the Candlelit Tales Podcast. We're now starting a new series and it will be all about Samhain stories. We've done this before and we're doing it again.
It is by now annual.
Ah, jeez, don't get it.
I'm sorry, but it is.
It is.
Like, we've been doing this every year, which is the point. And I just wanted to find a quick way of saying that in the intro so that we didn't spend a long time saying that we're doing this every year. Also, you know, if you want to listen to more stories, you can go to the YouTube playlist where we have a playlist.
We do have a playlist.
Or you can look up Samhain on our, they're all tagged as Samhain. They're all Samhain stories.
Yeah.
So there's probably a way of making a playlist of that for yourself on the podcast app of your choice and convenience and preference.
Absolutely. So we've loads going on at the moment, guys. We're very happy that we've loads going on.
Are we? I'm terrified.
No, we are. I mean, look, we get to play with stories, and that's the world in which we are living in and working within.
Yes.
And the biggest thing we're working on at the moment, this month being the lead up to Halloween, is we're working with the Púca Festival, which is trying to make everybody aware that Halloween started in Ireland, on Iahauna, and
Yes.
specifically in Meath.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of a little bit of a misconception around the world that Halloween, as we are aware of it and as we know it sort of globally, is seen as being an American thing with the jack-o'-lanterns and the trick-or-treating. But actually a lot of those traditions come from Ireland. And that's kind of what Púca Festival is all about, is about reclaiming that. And then they decided that Samhain was too hard to say, so that they called it Púca Festival instead of Samhain Festival, which is cool.
It is cool because
Samhain, when people say it wrong, does give me the rate.
Samhain.
No. I watched a TV show once, and it was an American one where it was tracing it back to being a Celtic demon named Samhain, and they had to call his name in order to banish him. And I was like, he wouldn't fucking answer us.
What?
It would be like somebody calling me Saoirse. I just wouldn't clock that as my name at all, and would just be like,
Nope.
I wouldn't even take offence. I would just assume you were talking to somebody named
else.
Sam that was over there in the Hain, whatever the fuck a Hain is.
Whatever Hain is.
So yeah, it was very funny. Anyway.
Well, it kind of lines up with, I guess, our ethos in this podcast and this company of, Candlelit Tales.
Bringing those stories back.
And being, finding out that there's a connection to land and place and also cultural significance and a lot of wisdom that's there and a lot of crack and fun and festivity within them. So that's what this festival is trying to do as well. And we're very lucky and delighted to be Don't Drop Stuff on the podcast because people can hear it. I wonder what the fuck that was.
Yeah, but they can watch on YouTube and they can see that I dropped a thing.
They can.
It was off screen.
It was off screen, so you can't see it. Or maybe it didn't quite get it low enough.
It's fine. We've got a lot of headspace, and you can see our beautiful logos, which are stuck to the Shoffice wall.
Oh, no.
Now you just got a hand.
Now you just got a hand.
I told you that this is now being used.
Ta-da.
My phone is being used, which is the not as good phone.
It's because I dropped my phone last week and it broke.
It broke so aggressively. It was personal.
Oh man,
that phone was mad at you.
It was.
And it just went ka-ch, and then purple.
And then my new substitute phone is angry at me. We just spent 10 minutes trying to get it off talkback mode. It wouldn't stop talking back at me.
It wouldn't stop yelling at Aaron that it was on mute.
I had to
leave.
It
was very upset.
I had to leave.
You did. I had to turn it off talkback because I still found it funny.
It was haunted. It was a haunted phone. There was a haunted spirit in the phone.
Your phones are haunted and angry with you.
Yeah.
Is what I'm taking away from all of this.
So speaking of haunted stuff, we're going to be doing two. So I guess this is the lead up to what we're doing in the podcast.
Yes, we should talk about that because if you want to know about what we're doing in Púca and what we're doing in November, go check out our website and the Púca website respectively.
Yeah, because we have a live show in the Sugar Club as well in Dublin, which I'm really, really excited about. And we're getting messages from people who haven't seen us before who are very excited to see us in Púca Festival.
You should come see us. You should come see us in person. It's great. It's really good fun.
It's very different to the podcast.
It's very different to the podcast. We just have to crack and tell people stories. And it's great.
Get people roaring. Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so. We might do that in the Sugar Club. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Although the last time we did that, we may or may not have brought about
we talked about burning down the old and releasing a lot of energy for the new, and how that was maybe a risky thing to do, and asked if everyone wanted to shout for it anyway, and they did, and then there was a pandemic, but that had already started, frankly.
Yeah, I guess.
Is my feeling on that.
Yeah, we may or may not have brought up
I don't think we brought about the apocalypse. I think the apocalypse was already happening, and we maybe helped direct it in a positive direction for Ireland.
Yeah, maybe.
Because in fairness, didn't handle it too badly here, I don't think.
No, not too bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Could have been worse. Condolences, America. I'm sorry, condolences. That seemed real bad.
And China.
And a lot of places.
A lot of places.
I mean, condolences, a lot of places.
A lot of everything. So, we're going back into looking at what stories we'll be telling. And we have decided to, because we got a lovely few messages on Patreon from a few of our Patreon supporters, asking us and telling us that they really liked hearing about what we're going to tell, how we're going to tell it, and an insight into what we're thinking about when we're planning the stories opposed to the chat back afterwards, because the themes definitely don't really change as we're talking about them, and it's nice to, especially with folk tales, lump them a little bit together, because there's maybe less to pull apart, and we get to talk through the little themes.
I feel like folk tales tend to be a little bit sketchier, and they often are told in a way that is very out of order to the way that would be an optimal telling. So the Púca story that I'm going to tell this time is wild, because it's just kind of backwards. It starts at the end and then ends in the middle, and it's confusing. So and it was part of the folklore collection that was made in schools in Ireland of what are the stories your grandparents told you, and it's from Donegal, and it's really cool. There's a cool story in there. There's a cool murder mystery thing in there.
When you're reading it out, though, it just sounds so backwards and mental and all over the place. And again, it's Dukas is the website?
It's from Dukas, and which is a really interesting resource if you're interested in stories that are collected around Ireland, because this is literally, the last line in this one is I got this from my grandmother, who got it when she was 6 from her father. I don't know. When she was it's a story that some old lady heard when she was 5 or 6, and that her school-aged child is now writing down for a collection, a folklore archive. So that's where that comes from. I'm looking forward to turning it into a cool murder mystery, frankly.
So I guess when you're reading it out, you're getting a kind of it's higgledy-piggledy. It's all over the place. It's a story. Obviously, it's called the Púca of Killeen.
Yeah,
right?
The Púca of Killeen.
And it doesn't ring very true as maybe what we've talked about as the Púca character, but then again...
Yes, but Púca is an interesting one, because the Púca is both a supernatural creature and is also the name that people gave to something that wasn't definably something else.
Ghost, spirit.
So if it wasn't definitely a Taibhse, or definitely a fairy, or definitely a Fardarag, or definitely a whatever the hell else... And again, local variations. If it wasn't definitely something, it was referred to as a Púca, which is why Púca covers so much ground, and why Púca is also kind of known as being a shapeshifter and something that appears in different guises, because it also just is kind of a collective word.
And we've researched this, and I think we've talked about it in the podcast before, but again, just to recap on the research we've found out about the Púca, because it comes in different sizes, shapes, and we told a story of Piper and the Púca in the podcast as well before.
Yeah, in which it's definitely a fairy. It's one of the fairies that is come with me and I will take you to a party. This is wildly crooked and it's bothering me.
I know, it's really annoying.
My desk is wildly crooked.
Yeah, we'll do that. Lovely, that's that.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry, there was a
just making sure that that's still recording.
Surface.
It's because I don't know if the shed is crooked or the desk is crooked or both.
So wonky.
I think it might be both, but I think the desk is definitely crooked.
It was upsetting to look at the screen. With the line crooked. I tried to fix it. Anyway, apologies for those listening and not watching YouTube, because that was
no all
sense.
Visual, and you don't care if there was a wonky line in the thing that you're listening to with your earballs. Not seeing with your eyeballs.
Right, earballs it is. So, speaking to your earballs, as we are, the Púca in many shapes and guises can be a horse, a hare, often there's black, long ears, golden eyes. In Waterford, he's an eagle. In Roscommon, I think he's an eagle. Leash has him as a black hole. He appears as different creatures around everywhere and in different shapes and different sizes. Like I said, as a man, when he transforms, he's kind of I guess pale, dark hair, pointed ears, perhaps, and golden eyes. And then in this story, he's a barrel.
Yes, the Púca in this story appears as a barrel. He's a barrel. When people see him in this haunted ass place, they see a barrel and they go, that is the Púca.
That's the Púca.
You've got a donkey Púca.
I've got a donkey.
Which is just a donkey.
Yeah, a donkey.
That
An
talks.
ass, actually.
An ass.
An ass.
Yes, but an ass in the form, like in the meaning of the word ass, that is donkey. Not enough free space. Crud.
Okay, we're going to pause this.
We're going to
recording.
pause this. We're going to delete some space on my phone, and then we're going to come back. Okay, we're back. We're back on Aaron's phone. So there was a camera change because my phone decided it didn't want to delete anything. It wanted to keep everything.
Anyway, apologies for those, again, listening and not watching us on YouTube. Should have listened to my thing and used my crap phone. But I was scared.
Yeah,
of the
but that
ghost.
was
Scared
when
of
your
the
phone
Púca in
was
that phone.
That was when your phone was haunted and yelling at
And
you
yelling at me. It was
continually, and so you would have been hearing a yelling phone all the time. It's fine. It's just the screen froze for a second, I think.
I swear to God, I think there's actually Púca energy in this podcast, and it's not wanting us to do the thing.
Yeah,
It's
we've
feeling-
angered something, Aaron.
I don't know what it is, but
We've definitely angered something.
there's
I don't know what it is,
some
but
form of spirit.
something is going on. Anyway, it seems like everything is actually going smoothly. It's just the display is happening in such a way as to freak everybody out. So, in conclusion, the Púca is many things, and sometimes it gets into your phone and decides to fuck with you. In which case, hi, sorry, thank you. Please
Thanks.
stop.
Your story, you're going to have to work on and figure, or you've been figuring out. So you want to tell me a little bit about it?
Yes. I'll tell you a little bit about the Púca of Killeen because this is the story of, it's the story of a murder. It's the story of a murder of a man who maybe was not a very nice man. He was a farmer and he was killed by a secret society, which I want to do a little bit of research into because it's just kind of given in the story with no context, and I want to look into like what were secret societies in Ireland in the 1700s. They were around. There was something going on there. He was a guy who deserted his family, and his family, his first wife's, he got remarried, and he didn't support his kids, but his first wife had some family members who were
Connections.
in this particular secret society, and the scuttlebutt was that they killed him, but the place that he was killed in was haunted in a very specific way that was very weird.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on scuttlebutt.
What?
I don't know. It's a funny word.
It was the scuttlebutt, you know. It was the water cooler chat in 1700s Donegal. Was that this guy had been? They did a murder, and some stuff happens. I'm not going to go any further into that. I don't think because
Well,
I want to figure out how to structure that because I think the protagonist of this story is because basically this particular haunting, in the way that it went about, the barrel and the noise, which were the two kind of main aspects of the haunting, went on until it was dealt with by a local priest. So for me, I think the interesting character in that would be to take the point of view of the priest and like paranormal investigating this
Murder
and
mystery.
figuring out what's the source of the sound, what's going on with this murder. What is this unquiet spirit? And there's also a witness who comes forward like years and years and years after the supposed crime, who not only saw the dead man being carried away by the people who were supposed to have murdered him, but also the day after he saw the dead man being carried away, met said dead man at the place of this weird Púca haunting. So, and had a conversation with him, which is not specified. So again, I'm kind of like, I don't want to go too much into this because I haven't decided a lot of stuff yet. Because I don't know if I want to flesh out that conversation and actually like make something up for that, or if I want to leave it as it is in the kind of collected story.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting in the collected story is that you have a kind of a time jump, and you've information landing. It starts with the murder and boom, 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 and I guess it's if you're taking it from the perspective of the priest, you're going backwards, like from starting at him with this witness and working backwards. And again, the Púca being not necessarily the black-haired, golden-eyed, pointed ears dude, but a spirit.
That's a particular version of the Púca. Is that, and like I said, the important thing to remember with Púca is that anything that is not specifically something else is referred to as a Púca. So a Púca is not a specific character. The version of the Púca that is being used by the Púca Festival is a specific character, but that is not what that's not reflected by all of the folklore.
No.
So it's kind of important to also remember, like, when we start taking, like, it often happens when you start taking things from mythology, from folktale, and kind of defining them and putting a shape on them, you end up leaving a lot out. Which is fine, because you kind of need to in order to explain to people what it is you're doing and why you're doing it.
Totally.
And it's not very helpful if you're kind of like, well, it means a lot of stuff. You kind of got to be able to narrow in on the bit that I'm interested in, this bit, or the bit that I'm interested in is this bit, and this is the meaning of this bit, and so this is what I'm taking.
The Púca story that I'll be telling in this series is the Púca of Kildare, and he arrives as an ass to a big house, and again, it's worded so confusingly. At one stage, in the translate or the way it's written, he picks up his hoof hand, picks the boy out of the hearth while pouring water into a pot and laying himself down in front of that.
It doesn't make sense in my head, because I don't know what hearth I don't understand. Like, it sounds like it pulls the boy out of a fire. Anyway, it's a little confusing.
So there's a bit of like,
I think that's more detail-y stuff.
It's detail and it's wording. So there's kind of just a way of, I guess, looking at it that's going to be, I suppose, the establishing area is this big manor. The HR character the owner of the house isn't really named. He's a squire.
He's literally named HR, not the department in a company. Just.
Only
it's one of those things where, like, they give the initial with a line after it. So it's like, in the townland of Q, this happened.
Ooh, that guy.
And it's like, why don't you just name? I don't know. Anyway,
so there's a lot of Irish servants working there, and they're terrified by all the clanking and banging and stuff going on at night. And lo and behold, one of the servants finds out there's an ass coming in and doing lots of stuff. And as the story goes on, we find out, I won't give it away, the ending again in terms of.
So what are you looking to do with this story? I think is the question.
So,
like, what's your construction that you want to put on this story?
So, because it's kind of like it's so bizarrely worded and told as a kind of a.
Well, you got to tidy it up.
Yeah, obviously you tidy it up, but I want to introduce an element of the freakiness of those noises. What's going to actually, where the terror and the fear, and then that kind of I guess everybody in the house becomes very calm and relaxed, and
everyone is so weirdly chill with it once they know that hey, there's a donkey coming in at night doing everybody's stuff.
It's like
everyone is like cool.
And then they get very, very lazy.
I like that one servant who's named in it. She is literally only called the fat, lazy servant, but she sounds like the smartest person in the room by a lot.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who's like, so this donkey is coming in doing all of our jobs. You know, why are we doing our jobs then? Because it's literally double jobbing. So, and honestly, I am with her. I think it's bullshit.
And I want to get a little bit more.
So many of us have had that job where you're like, I'm doing the thing that I'm doing is fundamentally pointless.
So I guess what I'm playing with is the fact that there's another character in there, the young boy, who is like terrified at the start of.
But isn't it a different boy who comes back later? Are you going to amalgamate?
I think I'll amalgamate it because I think it's just clearer. If it's one boy who sees him at the start, gets freaked out, and then there's also a bit of an arc that he goes on watching and conversing, seeing the spirit as something that is real, is attached to an all human form, is somebody who has had a curse put on them essentially, and the kind of the familiarity that might build up between this belief in the spectre.
You've got a relationship and you've got an arc then.
Yeah.
And you've also got that is a thing that happens a lot in folktales and in fairy tales, where the arc, the individual characters don't have an arc, but the 7 princesses, if you take them all as being aspects of the one person, then there is an arc.
Then there's an arc.
Then there's a character arc, and then there's character development.
I think I'll just clean it up if that serving boy is the one boy.
Yeah,
and
it makes it easier for a modern audience to get their heads around that.
I think so. And
we've also got
flip it a little bit at the end.
I'm just aware of time. We've also got a couple of stories. We've got a couple of extra stories. You were telling another version of the Dark Dew.
Yes, and I'll be putting up a video that I recorded that one already, and I've put up a video, or we will be putting up a video onto our Patreon about my headspace just before I told that story. Exactly how I was putting it together. But you've told the Dark Dew from the female perspective, the story of the girl who gets sold basically into a loveless and horrible and abusive marriage.
Way worse than Loveless. Loveless is fine.
Well, initially it was oh, this is going to be loveless, but then it becomes abusive and awful and torturous.
Yeah.
So that, and you've told it from her perspective. And I was just kind of thinking, one night I was looking at the list of stories that we have and we could do. And again, the perspective swap of what happened, what was the farm boy that was in love with that daughter, what was going through his head at that time when someone who just comes in and steals your beloved away from you, and how much was he really, I guess, at fault for his inaction? How much was he trapped up in his own emotion and in his own head? So I tried to get into his head a little bit about this, what happens. Again, it's a form of trauma that he was kind of probably going through, not as bad as her, of course, but
it's an interesting thing as well in terms of what level of agency would he have actually had it in that situation.
Yeah.
If it's here's somebody who's vastly wealthier and more powerful than you, there is no law enforcement you can call on. You're not a fucking warrior yourself, and you don't know what's happening. So what are you able to do, and what That's a part of, I suppose, the reasons that people don't intervene in horrifying circumstances is that they don't necessarily have all of having more power than her doesn't mean that he had power in the situation. It just means that relatively, he had more power than she did,
and yet plagued by the guilt of not doing inaction as well. So I kind of wanted to just play with that, and I decided to tell it again. We told a couple of stories this time last year in the first person. I wanted to go back to that style because I do enjoy it, and it's a very stream of consciousness.
I don't think I did. I didn't. But you, yes, I know. What you mean. Yeah, no, I like that as well. And
last but not least, you have a creepy cat story.
I got which is actually going to be the next story that you hear on the podcast because first but not least, because we went backwards because we worked backwards. The Demon Cat. The Demon Cat is a story about. Well, I actually kind of got interested because I recently bought a book which is a history of Ireland in 100 words, which is very cool. And one of the first entries that I kind of skimmed through was about the eye and the evil eye, and the kind of belief in. It's almost like a belief in getting any attention at all, positive attention is bad luck. It's still a thing in Ireland that you shouldn't compliment a baby in a lot of places, because if you say, oh, that's a beautiful baby, then that's inviting envy and the evil eye. So there's a little detail at the beginning of this story. It's about a fisherman's wife who's lucky, and she starts getting visited by a demon cat. And so I kind of saw the lucky thing, and that pinged off the entry I just read in the history of Ireland in 100 words, and I was like, oh, what if she's lucky and this is an envy thing? What if she's lucky, a poor fisherman's wife in Connemara who gets a little bit of a break, who's known for being lucky, and then starts getting haunted by this demon cat. So I just kind of wanted to play with the idea of luck and envy as being an invitation to these kinds of forces of evil and forces of darkness that start coming, turning up and fucking with people. Because it was just kind of, like I said, it was a detail that I kind of clicked into. So I'm going to have a play with that, and with that idea of luck and envy and status and what that kind of means in a very poor community.
Nice.
And also the thing of, the crab bucket.
What's the crab bucket?
The crab bucket is a metaphor for if you have a very a poor community and one person starts to get ahead, because if you put crabs in a bucket, apparently fishmongers don't need to put a lid on the bucket.
Okay.
Because if one crab starts climbing out, the other crabs pull it down. So no crab gets out of the bucket. All of the crabs kind of like keep themselves in there, and then all of the crabs get sold and eaten, which is kind of a metaphor for how communities can work sometimes. In that if somebody is seen to be getting a little bit too big for their boots,
Get down there now, you.
get the fuck down there now, which obviously results in nobody gets to kind of improve their circumstances.
Very Irish thing, isn't it?
It's an extremely Irish thing. It's not exclusive to Ireland. It is a thing that happens in a lot of places in the world, but it is a very recognisably Irish thing as well. Just that thing of like, you're getting to, I knew
Your
you.
man. Oh,
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Swan around the place. Notions.
I knew him when he had no arse on his trousers. Like, it's kind of, people getting too big for their boots, notions, etc. So yeah, I thought that would be kind of an interesting thing to play with Demon Cat.
Very good. All right, guys. So we're going to have this story coming up next on the podcast, and we have, like we said, check our stuff online, website rather, for the live shows, and we'll be doing quite a lot of very exciting stuff for Púca Festival, including, can I say it?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a cool show in Trim Castle, which
With
is
a giant crow
very
puppet.
limited tickets.
Very limited tickets, giant crow puppet.
Which will be very, very cool, and we're very excited about it. And we're also going to be doing storytelling in Trim, and we've also been working with the walking tour that's happening in Trim, and there's going to be some really cool stuff happening in not just Trim, also at Boy. But there's going to be like cool stuff in Púca Festival, so do check it out. There's going to be some really great acts, and we're very excited to be part of
up
it.
at the Hill of Ward last weekend.
We were
last week,
up on Clocktown, which is the home of Halloween, which is where it all began way back when. That was where the fire was lit. When all of the fires in the land were put out, that was where the fire was lit, and to guide the spirits back across the Vale.
And you can see all the other hills and the sacred sites along Meath as well from the same place, which is great.
We are very bad at knowing which one is which, but we were trying to figure out.
We were trying to figure it out. Sorry.
Where's Tara? I don't know. Is that
that crew? I don't know.
Anyway.
It was hard to say. Okay, guys, thanks very much. If you like this video and you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on a podcast, like and give us a review or share it with someone you know. And of course, you can sponsor us on patreon.com/candlelittales, or just share it with a mate if you like it. That's all.